Okay, so you know how we always get into the nitty-gritty here, right?
Yeah.
Well, today we're tackling something that I know is on a lot of people's minds. It's this whole thing about life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically what happens when you find out your PSA levels are a little bit higher than you want them to be.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. A lot of people worry about that.
Exactly. And, there's a lot of fear and, frankly, confusion around what that means for your chances of getting covered. So let's just dive right into it and unpack all the nuances. How does having an elevated PSA level actually affect your options when you're shopping for life insurance?
All right. So first off, just to level set a little bit, we need to understand that PSA levels have become a really key factor
Yeah.
in how life insurance companies assess risk these days, right?
For sure.
But what's interesting and what a lot of people don't realize is it's not just about the number itself. It's about the whole context.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of our listeners are familiar with what a PSA test is. But what are the things that insurance companies are really zeroing in on when they see those numbers and they're outside of the quote-unquote normal range?
So there are a few things, right? So one is how fast has your PSA been going up?
Okay.
Like if it's a really rapid increase,
Mm-hmm.
that can be way more alarming than a slow, gradual rise, even if both of them end up technically in the elevated range.
Makes sense.
And then another thing they look at is what are called different PSA isoforms, which basically means different types of the PSA protein, because some of these isoforms are more strongly linked to cancer than others. Some might just be completely benign.
So it's like they're playing detective a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, not just looking at that one number in isolation.
Yeah, it's the whole story, not just that one snapshot.
But I think, for a lot of people listening, if they just got a PSA test back and the numbers are a little higher than they were hoping for, they might just be freaking out right now thinking, oh my gosh, can I even get life insurance at all?
I totally get that. It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
But the good news is you absolutely can. There are definitely options, and that's where understanding the different types of life insurance comes in.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping we'd get into, because you hear these terms,
Right.
fully underwritten, simplified issue,
Right.
guaranteed issue. But I think a lot of people don't really understand the difference, and specifically how those differences could really impact someone of this situation. So can you break those down for us? What are the pros and cons of each type, especially for someone with elevated PSA?
Okay, so picture this. Fully underwritten life insurance. It's like getting a suit custom tailored.
Okay.
Right. It's designed to fit you perfectly, and that usually translates to the best possible rates you can get.
So lower premiums.
Exactly. But just like with a custom suit, it requires a more in-depth process to get there,
Right.
which means you'll need to go through a full medical exam. And of course, that will include a PSA test. Now, if your PSA is just slightly elevated and your overall health is good, you might still qualify for standard rates or maybe just a little bit higher premium. But if your PSA is very high or you have a history of prostate problems, things can get more complicated.
So that's fully underwritten. What about simplified issue? Is that more like buying off the rack?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's definitely faster and easier.
Okay.
You usually skip the medical exam completely, which is a big relief for some people.
For sure.
But there's always a trade-off, right?
Okay.
So you'll still need to answer some health questions on the application. And the premiums will generally be higher than a fully underwritten policy, but this can be a really good option if you're concerned about the medical exam pushing up your rates,
Okay.
or if you just need coverage quickly and don't want to wait for that whole underwriting process.
And then this guaranteed issue. I feel like that's like the safe haven option, like the pair of cuffy sweatpants you can always rely on.
Exactly. No matter what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like that safety net. You get automatic approval regardless of your health history. So for folks who maybe have been denied coverage elsewhere or have really complicated medical situations, this can be a huge peace of mind.
Yeah, peace of mind must feel great.
Absolutely. But of course it comes at a price, right? Premiums are going to be the highest with this type of policy. And often there are waiting periods before the full death benefit kicks in.
Okay, so we've laid out the different types of insurance. Now for the million-dollar question. Let's say I'm sitting here listening.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, my PSA is high.
Mm-hmm.
What can I actually do to try to get the best possible rate? Because navigating the world of insurance can feel so overwhelming.
Oh, I hear you. It can feel like you're walking through a maze with your eyes closed sometimes.
Exactly. So what's the firelight? What can people do to take control and not feel so lost in the process?
All right, here's the thing. Knowledge is your flashlight.
I love that.
And step one, Don't underestimate the power of staying on top of your health.
Okay.
Regular checkups. They aren't just good for you, they're good for your insurance rates, too.
How so?
Because it shows the insurance companies that you're proactive about your health, that you're taking care of yourself, and that's a big plus in their book. And listen to your doctor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you're following their recommendations, taking your medications, managing your condition, that demonstrates a real commitment to your health, and insurers see that as a positive sign.
So it's all about showing them that you're taking it seriously, right? You're not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Right. And here's a pro tip. Find a good insurance broker. And I don't just mean any broker. Find one who specializes in pre-existing conditions.
Okay, so someone who really knows the ins and outs of this particular situation.
Exactly. And in our research, we came across a company called Diversified Insurance Brokers. They seem to be really well regarded in this area.
Diversified insurance brokers. Got it.
Yeah, and brokers like them are worth their weight in gold because they know all the nuances of this stuff.
Yeah.
They work with tons of different insurance companies so they can shop around and find the policies that might have better terms for someone with an elevated PSA.
Makes sense.
Plus, they'll be your advocate throughout the whole process.
So they're in your corner.
Exactly, fighting for you to get the best possible coverage.
All right, so if we're wrapping up here, what's the big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with today?
Don't panic. Just because your PSA levels are higher than you'd like, it doesn't mean you're out of luck when it comes to life insurance. You've got options. Take a deep breath, arm yourself with knowledge, and most importantly, reach out to a professional who can guide you through the process. You've got this.
I love that. That's so important. And, you know, if you take away just one thing from today's deep dive, let it be this. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to something as important as life insurance. So don't let this be the end of your journey. Take that next step, reach out to a broker, and get yourself on the path to feeling secure about your family's future. That's all for today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.